Hey guys, my name is Deneen White, and I am going to be your host this weekend for the Model and Actor Bootcamp. We are so excited, Alycia. I have Alycia Kaback in the house. I have Brian Frank in the house. I have Bam Bam in the house. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How
It,
are you, man?
it seems weird to see you guys on here. We were just hanging out at a magnificent mansion off of Lake Las Vegas, like literally what, 72 hours ago? What are we
Yeah,
doing
give or take.
back in like normalcy?
Yeah,
Crazy.
for
Awesome. So, thank you guys so much for being here. This is our
sure.
pre-party for our Model and Actor Bootcamp. So, what we would just like to do is just have you guys share your story because I know that you guys both have very inspirational stories. So, would the two of you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, my name is Brian, also known as Chunky Marine here on One Nug, Two Fatties.
Tell them about yourself, man. She said, tell them about yourself.
Oh, she asked me to introduce myself.
She gets over.
Uh,
Tell
I'm,
them
a,
the story.
I'm a disabled veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I have 4 kids and a wife, and I've been in the cannabis industry for about 15 years now. I've been all over the United States consulting for different cannabis companies. When the metric system came into place back in 2016 in Colorado when they went recreational, I've, I've helped out numerous people with cannabis. I think it's a definite healer of to say the least. And now I'm out here in Vegas, just exploring my possibilities and seeing what else I could do.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank
It's
you
And
very much.
funny because he says cannabis, but he's so motivational. When I met you at the pool the other day, we have a mutual friend, Bill Walsh, who is unbelievable. When I met you the other day at the pool, I was like, damn, this guy motivates me. And when I heard what you do, and especially meeting Bam Bam, you guys are literally you're two people that not only love cannabis and the medical benefits, but also you're streamlining now into your podcast. The gentleman next to you wearing this really blonde wig over here. Who are you?
so they call me Bam Bam, you know what I'm saying? So the wig is podcast Bam Bam, kind of like the cartoon Flintstones. So only wear this during podcast time. So we're actually filming our own show at the same time as you. It's good to see you again, man. Last
Good
time we
to
saw
see
you was
you.
poolside.
Show everybody your Bam Bam tattoos because I'm such a geek. I was like Bam Bam, and then he literally has. You want to show us your arm candy over here?
Oh, can you see that? I'm sorry. Hold on. Watch out. Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah,
Can
I
you see
see it.
that?
I do.
Cool. Yeah, man. So I was on Robin Big and Fantasy Factory back in the day. Big Black was my cousin. Rest in peace. And I'm out in Vegas now, man. And we got it going right now. One two fatties, my fat friend over here. He's my number one friend and my number one hater at the same time. I love it. So we definitely gotta have you come on our show as well, so we can show you some one no two fatty love. And man, it was so awesome running into you and meeting you and all the cool people over there at Bill's house and the people across the street as well. We had a good time with them people too.
Yeah, I mean,
So
and here you
I think you also
are,
like
hours.
I think you
Yeah,
also put a lot of money together and buy a house over there. What do you think? It's beautiful.
I think as far as networking, it's funny because I came home and I had told some friends like, oh, I was in Vegas, and a lot of people go and see like shows and go out to buffets. We were at like NFT parties, like for launches of major NFTs and Bitcoin and crypto, and even hanging out with you guys. Man, I mean, we had options to hang out with Coolio and just all these big people, and I was like, this is so cool. And there's a saying, your network is your net worth, and let me ask you a question, Bam. I mean, working with MTV, do you feel like that's helped kind of like draw attention to your podcast? Do you feel like,
Definitely. I believe like we really with our podcast, we're kind of doing the Rihanna route. You know how Rihanna hasn't dropped an album in a while, so everybody wants to see Rihanna's album. So we're pretty much dropping our highlights until we get the buzz up. I definitely think it's going to help, and we're definitely trying to take full advantage of that. I feel like I do kind of get a little I kind of like a cheat code kind of in the podcast world just because of the past stuff that we did and it was so well. And like, a lot of people didn't know I helped out with a lot of that funny stuff, man. So you'll see it You come check it out yourself. I will guarantee a good time over here at One Nug Two Fatties. But yeah, to answer your question, definitely yes, and we plan on taking full advantage of it. Definitely.
Yeah, and you got to constantly connect with like-minded individuals. And what I love about you guys, and Deneen is a testament to this. Deneen also has a podcast. Some of the people that we met, she just had an amazing podcast with another person that we met in Vegas. So, being able to keep those relationships. I mean, we all took selfies together, but actually being able to cultivate those relationships, following through is such a big thing. Am I right?
Definitely. So follow up is definitely key. In communication, you got to communicate with those people and be able to bounce ideas off one another and see where you guys can fit in together.
Yeah. So go ahead, Deneen.
So it's really cool being on MTV and starting a podcast and different things like that. But for our audience, a lot of them are pretty brand new to the entertainment industry. Can you talk about some of the adversities that you've overcome to get where you are today?
Adversities, really? I don't. It's kind of tough because like our mindset was, we were going to do it regardless. We didn't really look at it as adversity. We kind of looked at them as little stepping stones, I guess. You know what I mean? But we didn't really have a problem, man. The show was like the #1 rated show in history of the network at the time. So it really wasn't. You'd be surprised, man. Every race, color, creed, everybody, man, from 13 to 63 knew about that show, man. So it was MTV made it hot, and they kept playing the reruns. And
yeah, it's funny because when I showed my boyfriend your picture, he was like, "I know him." I was like, "It's just a day." You know what I mean? This is just what we do. It's just all about. And you guys also,
star, I'm a kind of rock star that's chilled out right now.
Yeah, I know.
I done chilled out a little bit, but I'm an ex-party rock star. Shout out to Crew, you know what I mean? Shout out to all them good guys.
Yeah.
Man, can you see the bangs on there? How am I bangs?
Yeah, the bangs look good. I want to see you do a little.
Awesome.
And is that like a big? What is that behind you? What is that?
It's our nug. That's the nug. So that's the other part of the podcast. It's like the most important part. One nug, the big nug.
It's a 7 foot, 500 pound marijuana nug, and he's a rock star. Yeah. He has his own cartoon. He's with us right now, but he's really bougie. He'll be going to Planet 13 soon.
Real soon.
Yeah. So in the meantime, he has to be with us before he goes to bougie.
Yeah, we also met Herb with Planet 13 at the party, and I know we were picking his brain because he does a lot of work with like people like Mike Tyson and Drake and all these amazing people. Thinking so doesn't necessarily make it so. I mean, there's a lot of people that are probably watching this that manifest like, oh, I want to do a podcast or I want to work on this type of level. But you guys are I love to say hustlers. You guys are pushing the rock up the hill. You guys are going into the studio. I mean, you also put a lot of love into this. You guys were both so amazing, so real. We were hugging it out. There are a lot of imposters when you're trying to break into this business, and being real, we were saying you're always on stage, especially you have a lot of people looking up to you, so, I mean, your show is around cannabis, obviously, but you also, Brian, have an amazing story about your dad, which is why you really wanted to do this, right?
Yeah. That's why I got into cannabis because, being a disabled veteran, the VA tries to pump a lot of narcotics and opioids to the veteran community, and it's never good. Opiates aren't really the best for your body or brain, especially when you come from the military presence and you have to deal with what you had to deal with in service. As well as my dad. My dad had stage 3 non-small cell lung cancer, which we put into remission through RSO, making it into suppositories. So yeah, that's a totally different story. That has its own background and everything to it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you actually created something, like you said, a suppository, and you helped cure your dad for an uncurable. I mean, you literally had medical experts coming. I mean, I'm still trying to learn a lot about this whole cannabis thing. I mean, we were at Bill Walsh's big speaking engagement, we also were partnered up with like a CBD convention, and I was like, I'm still learning a lot of this. You saw me at the pool party, like,
Yeah.
what are you guys doing? You know, like I feel like I've been living in a bubble.
Yeah, it's a lot of information. It's a lot of things to take in, and especially being a very big industry where it's billions of dollars, there's a lot of corporate entities that are trying to get into it when some of the pioneers that have been doing this for decades and decades and decades have, served time for this plant and been put in prison for a long time for something that's healing people and helping people out right now, and that big corporations are making millions of dollars of, billions of dollars of in legal states. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of our good friends actually, Richard Stratton, wrote a book about his travails in the cannabis industry. So like when I heard you speaking and when we were talking in Vegas, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much energy there, because there are so many people, like you said, that are behind bars right now for a plant that's healing people. But then there's this whole industry that's budding together. And can you talk a little bit about like people know the recreational side? Can you just talk a little bit about the medicinal side of cannabis as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way we got to recreational cannabis is through medical, bills and things that went into place to allow for it to get recreational. This whole thing came from, cancer to begin with. I think that California was one of the first states to start it. And then a couple other states slowly picked up, like California went from Colorado to Washington and Oregon. They started passing medically for a bunch of different ailments, whether it be PTSD or cancer was one of the biggest ones, because it's helped out so many other people besides just my father. There's been people that have had Crohn's and people that have had all other kind of diseases that are, medically uncurable, that use this plant and have used it for a while to get better. So the recreational is only around because the medical set the way. So the medical is where it actually came from and started at, and then they saw the tax dollars and the revenue, and it just picked up recreational. So now 21 and up can consume in quite a bit of states right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of progression we're making with the cannabis industry and its laws, but there's still a lot of reform that has to be done on the federal level versus the state level.
Yeah, for sure. So how are you getting your message out? I know you guys have the podcast, One Dog, Two Fatties. Can you talk a little bit about your podcast and a little bit about what you do on the podcast? And I know, Brian, you and I had a conversation also about just some amazing things that you're doing to inspire the youth of the country as well. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in Colorado for years. I was a youth football coach. It gives you a sense of purpose, out there teaching these young men. And even we had a couple girls on the team that wanted to just be football players. So, I mean, always, the youth is the future of what we have. So you're trying to set up the next generation for as best as possible to, present themselves to everybody else as, like they got it going on and they got their stuff together, instead of just being reckless and doing reckless things, because the world is already a reckless place. So.
Yeah. One of the things I like to ask talent, as I have the opportunity not only to host these amazing events, but also to interview talent. So one of the questions I like to ask talent, I want to ask you, Brian, and you, Bam Bam, what is your why? Like, why do you do this? Because this industry is absolutely amazing. There are times where it's like the best thing in the world. And then there are times you're like, why am I doing this? So can you just tell us a little bit about why you've chosen this life?
Okay.
I've been doing this, so I can't remember the why, but it's been a long time for me. This ain't new to me, so I've been doing this. I forgot my why.
My why is, I started using cannabis as a young kid, just because it was the cool thing to do at the time. And now I use cannabis for a totally different reason. So, I mean, to pick this life and industry, it kind of picked me. Been hanging out with this guy too, it just kind of all rolled together.
Pun intended?
Yes, pun intended.
Awesome.
I can almost smell it from here if we had smell-o-vision. And I'll just say for everybody watching, you're welcome.
Yes, exactly.
We're in a legal state,
Yeah.
Shout out Nevada.
Shout out Nevada, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
One
One day.
Yeah,
One
you
thing.
can't, you can't have a no co-star and not, partake.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on today and sharing your story with us. I know that you have a big show you're preparing for, but I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories and just inspire our talent, because I know that someone watching is like, wow, if these guys can come out and change the world, I know I can too. So thank you so much for being on with us today. I really appreciate it.
And
Yeah,
I've
man.
learned so much from you both. I mean, just being able to be with you and picking your brains and asking you questions because, I think growing up, I grew up in Boca Raton. Hearing about marijuana back in the day, it was so taboo. And then, hearing these stories from like Richard Stratton, who we're going to connect you with, who, took those struggles of, being like the number one marijuana like smuggler ever. And then he created like motion pictures from his stories and worked with
Yeah.
all these tremendous people. And now he works with people like Sean Penn and, like Oliver Stone. And I mean, literally taking like, the obstacle is the way, like going through those things. And now like it's really becoming accepted. And like you said, not only is it recreation, but also the medicinal. I literally felt like between hanging out with you guys and, being at that CBD conference in Vegas, really just asking questions because I didn't understand, I thank you because I think with your podcast, and I want you guys to make sure that people know how to find you. I think there is a lot of curiosity, and I love the fact that you guys are so open about it. And the people that you have on are great too. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming on today. And, because there's a lot of people that we meet, we're like, oh, let's do a podcast. And they're like, yeah, call my people, and,
Yeah.
I think that had we
We
reached
did it
out
in
online,
72 hours. We did it in 72 hours.
Yeah.
that's how it's done.
Thank you for having us on. It was a pleasure.
And
Thank
thank
you.
thank you for introducing your viewers to my beautiful hair.
Yes.
It is
Well, thank
lovely
you. But the privilege is, it looks
And the next time you're in Vegas, you already know what you got to do. You got to stop by yourself.
I'll be on the show.
Come be on the show, definitely.
Yeah, we'll watch me try to smoke for the first time, and I'll get
Oh,
instructions.
That would
for the
be
first time.
interesting. That would
I'm
be
just throwing it out there.
We're gonna
Why
have
don't
to
you-
definitely film that. It's definitely film worthy.
Awesome.
All right. So where can our viewers
That's,
find you
the
guys?
story of the girl. Yeah. But I think it. I think you guys. So can we? How can we find you? Is it just One Nug Two Fatties? Is that
Yes,
what they type in?
you can go on Instagram, you can go on Twitter, or you can go on YouTube. We are the number one Nug NUG _2 fatties.
Two Fatties.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, I can't wait to see you in Vegas now, Deneen. This sounds like a challenge. Like how many of you guys want to see a coaching call of that? Right?
Yes.
It's going down.
That would be interesting. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right.
Bye,
All right,
guys.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you.
for everyone watching on Facebook, on YouTube, make sure you go to VIPigniteSummit.com because tomorrow we have our last free model and actor bootcamp. So go to VIPigniteSummit.com. If you don't already have the link, get yourself registered. We're going to start at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to get to know everyone, and then we kick off at
11:45 West Coast time.
Yes. All right. Awesome. Well, Alycia, that was pretty exciting having Brian and Bam Bam on. That was pretty amazing.
And I kind of want to say this. It's not just like a marijuana podcast. I mean, Bam, had worked with MTV, and even meeting Brian, they have stories. And I love the fact that, people are really coming together and they see the benefits of this. And, people are, well, how does this have to do with modeling and acting? How does this not have to do with modeling and acting? Even some like the biggest names in the world are they're starting their own cannabis. I mean, we have friends, like the Snoop Dogs and, Public Enemy. They're all kind of getting on this bandwagon. And so I just wanted to get on here. It was fun. I feel a little bit more relaxed after talking to them. I mean, I can only imagine what their studio smells like right now. I mean, but hey, a day in the life of, what it's like to be a podcaster. And, some people they don't know how to get their point out there. And, obviously having the platform like MTV to kind of propel it, but they're always recording and they're always doing their thing. And, this is cool. So thank you, Deneen. It was fun.
You're welcome. And so, guys, make sure that you follow their podcast, follow them on Twitter, on Instagram, #1nug_2 fatties. And we will see you tomorrow morning on the Model Enter Bootcamp.
Bye, guys.